There are truths that only emerge in silence. In the noise of the world, we wear masks for others, for duty, even for ourselves. But beneath all the roles we perform, there exists a voice quiet, ancient, uncorrupted. That voice is not loud, it does not demand, it waits. You only hear it when you are quiet enough inside to remember who you truly are. Khamoshi main suno. This is not an escape from the world, it is a return to the self. And here are the 5 inner truths revealed in silence. The soul does not speak the language of urgency. It does not shout across crowds or compete with the world's volume. It waits with ancient patience for the moment you choose to stop running, to stop performing, to stop explaining. In the stillness that follows, something subtle begins to stir, a whisper, a feeling, a memory that rises like smoke from a forgotten fire. This is how the soul speaks, not through logic or external instruction, but through sensation, image, rhythm, and silence. Stillness is not just the absence of movement, it is a state of deep receptivity. In this quiet, you become aware of undercurrents that were always there but drowned beneath the noise. You may begin to notice how you betray your own truth just to be accepted, or how your exhaustion is not from work, but from pretending. These revelations do not scream. They surface as faint echoes at first, and if you ignore them, they recede again into the unconscious. But if you listen with presence, they begin to take form. Clarity is born not from thinking more, but from listening deeper. In the noise, the ego dominates. In silence, the soul returns. You begin to feel the pull of what is essential, not the roles you play, not the masks you wear, but the deep yearning for authenticity that has always been there. The soul knows what you have forgotten. It carries the blueprint of your becoming, but you can only hear it when you are still enough to receive its subtle guidance, a guidance that does not impose, but invites. The world will tell you to speak louder, but the soul, always wise, teaches you to listen first, and in that listening, you don't just hear, you remember. You remember who you are beneath the armor, beneath the noise, beneath the fear. In that remembrance, life changes not dramatically, but profoundly. You do not become someone new. You begin, finally, to become yourself. Your wounds speak the loudest when you are alone, not because you are weak, but because solitude removes the distractions that numb your awareness. In the silence of your own company, the echoes of past pain begin to surface. You feel the sting of abandonment that you buried under constant connection. You hear the harsh voices of criticism that once shaped you, now amplified in your own thoughts. You notice how quickly you pull away from joy, how naturally you expect rejection, how deeply you doubt your worth, not because it's true, but because somewhere in your past, that pain was etched into your being, and no one ever taught you how to listen to it with reverence. In the absence of noise and performance, your inner world becomes unmasked. The distractions fall away, the screens, the tasks, the roles, and what remains is raw honesty. There is no one left to impress, no mask to maintain. And in this nakedness, you begin to feel everything you once avoided. The ache in your chest, the restlessness in your gut, the memories that still grip your breath. They rise not to torment you, but to be acknowledged finally, deeply. Because pain that is denied becomes louder, more twisted, but pain that is met with presence begins to soften. This inner confrontation is not weakness, it is sacred labor. To sit with your wounds without fleeing is to offer them the one thing they were always denied: attention. You begin to see that your suffering is not shameful, it is a map. It shows you where love was absent, where boundaries were broken, where the soul cried out but no one heard. And now in your own solitude, you are the one who hears. You become the witness you never had, and that changes everything. The shadow does not reveal itself in chaos, it emerges in stillness. When the outer world is silenced, when you are no longer posturing or performing, something unfamiliar begins to rise from the depths. It doesn't come in the form of light or insight, but as discomfort, unease, or a subtle tension that you can't quite name. This is your shadow, the parts of you that were exiled long ago, reappearing in the quiet moments where the ego's guard is down. The shadow contains everything you were told not to be: the anger you suppressed to appear kind, the desire you buried to appear pure, the ambition you downplayed to remain small, the sadness you swallowed to appear strong. You rejected these traits not because they were wrong, but because they were inconvenient to the identity you were praised for. Over time, these parts didn't vanish, they simply sank into the unconscious. But they never stopped living within you, and when you finally sit in silence, without distraction or denial, they begin to whisper. You may catch glimpses of it in your thoughts, in envy that arises without warning, in judgments that shock you, in memories you thought were resolved. Or it may come in dreams where strange symbols and emotions reveal the unspoken truths of your psyche. The shadow doesn't show up to destroy you, it comes to be seen, to be integrated, to be loved not as your enemy, but as your teacher. This process is uncomfortable because it asks you to hold paradox, to admit that you are both light and dark, capable of nobility and destruction, of compassion and cruelty. The ego resists this because it prefers certainty, clarity, control. But the soul knows that wholeness is found not by choosing one side, but by embracing both, and silence becomes the sacred container in which this reunion can begin. The gift of quiet observation is not that you fix the shadow, but that you become aware of it. That awareness alone begins to shift everything. You begin to notice when the shadow acts out, not to shame it, but to understand it. You start seeing the fear beneath the anger, the vulnerability beneath the pride, the innocence beneath the shame. This seeing, this honest witnessing, is the first step toward healing. Inward listening is not a passive act, it is an awakening. When you begin to listen to yourself in silence, truly and without interference, you start to peel away the layers of conditioning that were never yours to begin with. The voices that shaped your identity, society, family, fear, shame begin to grow quiet, and beneath them, something more ancient stirs, your inner authority. This is not the authority of domination or control. It is not loud, it does not demand obedience, it is subtle, intuitive, and sovereign. It arises from the very core of your being, untouched by comparison, unshaken by approval, immune to trend or pressure. But to access it, you must become radically honest. You must be willing to disappoint the world in order to be true to yourself. This is the cost of authenticity and its power. Most people live their entire lives outsourcing their direction. They chase validation like a drug. They become fragments of expectation. Every decision, every expression, is weighed against how it will be received, and in doing so, they become strangers to themselves. They stop asking, "What do I know?" and begin living in the echo of others' certainty. But inward listening changes that. It creates space for your own knowing to emerge, quiet at first, then unmistakable. This knowing doesn't speak in formulas or rules. It shows up as alignment, as resonance. You begin to feel what is right for you, even if you can't explain it. Your choices no longer come from fear or imitation, but from an inner compass that has been waiting all along for you to consult it. And once you do, your life begins to shift, not because it becomes easier, but because it becomes yours. There is deep dignity in being governed from within. You walk differently when you are not performing. You speak with clarity, not because you rehearsed it, but because it is real. You can say no without guilt, and yes without needing a reason. You do not need to convince or convert anyone. Your presence alone becomes a statement not of superiority, but of self-possession. The world may not reward this at first. It may misunderstand you, even resist you. But inward authority does not require applause. It stands firm because it is rooted in truth. And in time, that rootedness becomes a sanctuary not only for yourself, but for others who are still searching for the courage to be who they are. In the depths of silence, something eternal begins to awaken. It is not bound by time, nor confined by language. It does not need to be named to be known. When all the noise of the world subsides, when even your thoughts grow weary and fall quiet, you begin to sense a presence not outside of you, but deep within. It has always been there, unnoticed beneath the surface distractions, the anxieties, the restless need to become something. In that sacred stillness, you are not becoming, you are simply being. And in that being, you come face to face with the eternal. This encounter is not dramatic. It doesn't announce itself with lightning or revelation. It arrives in subtlety, in the calm that settles over your body, in the peace that floods your chest for no apparent reason, in the way time seems to stop and everything feels both vast and intimate. The eternal is not something you chase, it is what remains when you stop chasing, when you release the striving, the proving, the constant hunger to be seen. What you find is that you were never separate from the sacred. You only forgot. In that silence, you begin to realize that your deepest self is not the story you've been telling, not the fears you carry, not even the identity you've worked so hard to build. Those are garments useful, at times necessary, but not the essence. Beneath all roles, beyond even emotion and thought, there is a witness, a quiet awareness, a presence that observes everything but is moved by nothing. It is not indifferent, it is whole. It holds your joy and your grief in equal reverence. It is untouched by judgment, by history, by expectation. And once you touch it, even for a moment, you know you are not just living a life. You are life itself, expressing through a temporary form. This realization does not inflate the ego, it humbles it. You see the smallness of your dramas, the futility of your control, the illusions of separation. But this humility is not despair, it is liberation. Because if you are more than the body, more than the fear, more than the past, then you are free. Not free to escape the world, but free to meet it from a deeper place, a place of truth, of stillness, of quiet power. Most people fear silence because it strips away distraction, leaving them face to face with themselves. But what they truly fear is the unknown within the vastness they cannot control, the depth they cannot measure. Yet this very unknown is the gateway to the eternal. To sit in silence is to return to your origin not biologically, but cosmically. You return to that which has no beginning and no end, to that which is not trying to become something else, to that which simply is. And when you rise from that silence, you do not return unchanged. You may look the same, you may speak the same language, but something within you is quieter, clearer, more rooted. You walk through life differently not because it is easier, but because you are anchored in what cannot be taken from you, the eternal. So withdraw not in weakness, but in courage. Turn off the noise. Enter the stillness and listen, not to the world, not to the opinions, not even to the thoughts, but to the silence underneath them all. Wahan tum ho. There you exist fully, truly, unshaken. Kud ko khamoshi main suno. Because the soul never shouts, it waits for you to be quiet.